Welcome to Gwinnett County Public Library Fiber Art Fridays. Every other Friday, we will be bringing you a fiber art tutorial and project. Sewing is an important life skill and can improve your well-being, reduce your environmental impact, and save you money.
Today we are going to cover 2 ways to hand sew a hem, including an overcast decorative hem and an invisible slip stitch hem. For this project, you will need embroidery or sewing thread, a needle, pins, scissors, a needle threader, and an item of clothing you'd like to hem. This can be shorts, pants, a shirt, a dress, any item. You will also need an iron and an ironing board. Here, our ironing board is just a piece of plywood with quilting batting stapled to it. Let's start by prepping the hem.
Our first step in making a hem in these shorts is to actually fold over our seam. When we do this, we don't want raw edges. So we're going to fold it over, we're going to press it with the iron, and then we're going to fold it again so that we don't end up with it fraying as we go along. I'm using a little seam guide just as an eyeball figure to help me hold that down as I flip it, then to get a gauge on how much I'm flipping over. We don't want to have all of our hem just in the fold. Ironing this will help us to make sure that we are not fighting the hem as we go along, and we'll keep our measured length so that when we get done, our hem won't go up and down as we travel around the leg. I'm going to put a pin in the bend of the fabric here because that's the part that won't hold as easily as the other. Even if you iron it, it will be easier to hold that in position as I turn this over if I've got something there to hold it where the seam is. As we go, we're going to just literally iron our way around. Now, we're going to then fold this under again for our finish hem. And this is where we will pin it for real so that we know exactly how much hem we want. And we'll press it again. Then we'll be ready to hem. Because this hides our finished edge that we don't want to have fraying. There we go. Ready for hemming. This hem, we're going to use an overcast stitch because it's going to be a decorative hem. It's on the outside. Normally when you're hemming a pair of pants, your hem is on the inside. So when we do this, we are going to actually see it. I've threaded a needle with white thread in order to do a decorative stitch around this hem. We will go up underneath because we don't want to see our knot. So we're going to go up underneath the hem so that your knot disappears down into the hem. And then we're going to go up into the fabric, catch it, and come back into the hem. When we go through the fabric into the hem, we want the top thread to be on top of the needle. We're going underneath that so that you have a stitch. Otherwise, you'll end up with a knot. We're using embroidery floss for this, and unfortunately, sometimes if you don't run it over something like wax, it will get tangled. just be aware that you'll have to periodically untangle your thread to make it work. And you will continue in a measured way all the way around the leg of this pair of shorts. Now, the trick is to make sure that your stitches are nice and even. I will apologize right now for not being able to totally do that. But I'm trying to aim for the same line in the fabric as well as in the fold of the fabric in my hem, so that I get an even stitch. You're putting a very large amount of stitches to make this a decorative stitch. And sometimes when you do that, it's not always easiest to make it very, very even. The other thing is, if you're doing this and you catch your fabric too far up, you tend to then pull the hem out of alignment that you have sewed. Pressed your hem and you've got it to where you want it to be. And if you go too far up, you're going to yank it to where your line is off. As you go along, it's a good rule of thumb to make sure that your thread is pulled about the same for each stitch. You don't want to pull it too tight. You don't leave it hanging loose. Now, the trick with having a hem like this is that there is the potential for snagging this because it is outside. It is not like a regular hem that you would get on a pair of pants that is, the hem is inside. So if you leave it loose, you're going to catch that thread all the time. You're going to pull your tension enough to make it lay up against the fabric because you don't want it loose to where you would then be catching it all the time as you wear it. I don't have quite enough thread to finish this hem. So I'm going to knot this thread and then start it again. But I want to make sure that I put this thread into the hem, so because it's on the outside, I don't want it to show. So I'm going to turn around and make it go back out so that the knot is on the back side and I don't see it. So when I turn around and go back with my new thread, I can go over that and you'll never see the knot. Okay, we've got our needle rethreaded and we've got a knot at the end, which we're going to pull up through the bottom so that we don't see this knot either. And then we're going to go over that thread so that we are holding that knot in place. And then we will continue until we finish our hem. So we will show you how to tie this off, finish up. And we're going to tie us a knot. And we're going to leave it just a little bit loose so that we can run it through the back, because we don't want that knot, since this is a decorative stitch, to show up on our front. And there we go. Cut our thread off. And we have one leg done. You may want to iron your leg again after you're finished, but that's the way it ends up. If you were going to continue this without it being a demonstration, you would then make the hem on the other pants leg as well, and we'll do that later, but off camera. So that you don't end up watching us do this the whole time. Our next stitch is a slip stitch. The true test of mending is when your hem comes out. It's, oh gee, I broke the thread, I put my toe through it, I did something where the hem has now come out of a garment that I bought. The trick is to be able to then put that hem back. This hem has been fixed hem for quite some time. It doesn't need to be pressed, it doesn't need to be ironed because this hem is fixed. I will put a couple of pins in it just to hold it steady, but I'm basically going to put this hem back in the way it was originally. So I'm going to use my same fold, my same stitch. I'm going to start this with a bright pink thread so that you can actually see what I'm doing. And then we're going to switch. So you want this to be an invisible stitch using the thread that matches the material so that it just disappears into it. So I'm going to start this in this pink thread, my knot up behind in the hem, and I'm going to catch the material just a little bit because you're not making a big stitch, and you're going to go and slide it through the top. It's always a little tricky when you first start off. Catch this just the tiniest bit on the material, and then you go back to your hem and slide it right through the top and come out, pull it through, catch your fabric again, and then slide back in through your hem. Now, the closer I have this, the less apt I am to pull it out again. I was a little further spaced apart, and it led to disaster. I'm now having to put this hem back in. It takes longer to make up a shorter distance in between each stitch, but in the long run, you save yourself having to do this again. Now, when you turn it over, because I've only caught a little tiny bit, you don't necessarily see that, but it does come through just a tiny bit. All right, I'm going to switch. We'll tie this one and change to where we use the navy thread, and you'll get the actual look of what we were going for when we want our pants to have an invisible look. This one may be a little bit harder to see, but the difference in the look when you turn it over is what you're going for, because you don't want to see anywhere where you have a different color. And then we will continue until we finish our hem. Okay, we've made it to the end of this pant leg, and our hem is back in, so we're going to catch it at the end. Then we're going to tie us a knot and go through the back of our hem so that we don't have to see it. We've got a visible pink thread and an almost invisible navy thread. And when you flip it over, there's a tiny bit of pink showing, but no navy. And that's how you put a hem back in your pants after they come back out.
Thank you for joining us for Fiber Art Friday. Fiber Art Fridays are brought to you by Mackenzie, Janet, and Ashley from your local Peachtree Corners branch. Be sure to join us for September's topic, Old to New, where we will learn about mending, creating your own fibers, and bringing new life to old objects. Remember to bring your works in progress to Virtual Common Threads every Monday at 6:30 p.m. to share or get follow-up assistance. In the description below, you will find information about joining Virtual Common Threads and a link to our Fiber Arts site. Don't forget to subscribe, like the video, and visit GCPL's website calendar for additional programs. See you next time!